Wonderful. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom. Such
Shabbat
a beautiful
Shalom.
time. The Ruach HaKodesh is here with us because he's come with you. He's in you. He's living in you, dwelling in you. And I just trust that each of our lives is such that he's not embarrassed being in us. How about that? Because often we forget, don't we? We do forget. We go around our daily things and, hello. Whoops, forgot you're there. But he's actually with us. May it keep our walk right before him. And before, more importantly, as importantly, before each other. And also before those who are going to see, because of the love that we have for one another, that they will be drawn by that, so that they'll actually see. And they won't be embarrassed on our behalf. Sing the glory of his name. Shout joyfully to God, all the earth. Make his praise glorious. Say to God, how awesome are your deeds. Because of your great power, your enemies cringe before you. All the earth bows down before you and sings praises to you. Or sing praises to your name. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Let's rise to sing the Shema.
great singing. Joel's going to bring reading.
It's wonderful both having Shabbat, but also having at the same time be able to celebrate Hanukkah. Because we are the light.
Yes.
The light shining through us. How exciting is that? Psalms 27 says, Adonai is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Adonai is the stronghold in my life. Whom shall I be afraid? In Matthew 5 verse 14 to 16. You are the light of the world. As each one of us, a city set on a hill shall not be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they put it on a lampstand, so it gives light to all the house. And in the same way, let your light so shine before men, so that they will see the good works that you do and glorify Abba Father who is in heaven. Let us be that at this time. Just soak in the presence of the Ruach who is in you and in the person beside you. Just soak in the presence with the angels who are around the throne, honouring and celebrating Adonai, Elion, Lord God Almighty, Abba Father. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, yes. Let's continue on with the parasha readings this morning. Commencing with the Torah. Bereshit 41, or Genesis 41 through to 44. And after that, then we'll have a beautiful song, and then we'll have the Haderach readings, which is Zechariah. And then we'll complete it with the Brit Hadashah readings, which will actually occur after we have a bit of a break, a bit of time of prayer, which are basically in Yochanan or John and Acts. So just relax and enjoy the reading.
Genesis 41. Now at the end of 2 whole years, Pharaoh was dreaming. Behold, he was standing by the Nile. Then, behold, there were 7 cows, good-looking and beefy, and they grazed in the reeds. Then, behold, there were 7 other cows coming up after them from the Nile, ugly and emaciated, and they stood beside the cows at the edge of the Nile. Then the ugly, emaciated cows ate the 7 good-looking, beefy cows, and Pharaoh woke up. Then he slept and dreamed a second time. Behold, there were 7 ears of corn coming up on one stalk, plump and good. Then, behold, there were 7 ears of corn, thin and scorched by the east wind, sprouting up after them. Then the 7 thin ears of corn swallowed up the 7 plump and full ears of corn. Then Pharaoh woke up. It was a dream. But in the morning he was disturbed in his spirit. So he sent and called for the fortune-telling priests and of Egypt and all its wise men, and Pharaoh told them his dream. But no one could interpret them for Pharaoh. Then the chief of the cupbearers spoke with Pharaoh, saying, I am reminded of my sins today. Pharaoh had been angry with his servants and put me in the custody of the house of the commander of the bodyguards, me and the chief of the bakers. Then we each dreamed a dream on the same night, he and I. We both dreamed, yet each dream had its own interpretation. Now there was with us a Hebrew youth, a slave, belonging to the commander of the bodyguards. And when we told him, he interpreted our dreams for us. Each man's dream he interpreted. Then it came about, just as he interpreted for us. So it happened. Me he restored to my position, but him he hung. Then Pharaoh sent and called for Joseph. So they quickly fetched him from the pit. He shaved, changed his clothes, came to Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I dreamed a dream, and there's no one to interpret it. I heard about you. It said that you can listen to a dream to interpret it. Then Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It's not within me. God will answer with shalom for Pharaoh. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream there I was, standing by the bank of the Nile. And to my surprise, Out of the Nile 7 cows were coming up, beefy and good looking. They grazed in the reeds. Then all of a sudden there were 7 other cows coming up after them, feeble, very ugly and emaciated. I've never seen the likes of these in the whole land of Egypt for ugliness. Then the emaciated and ugly cows ate the first 7 beefy cows. When they were devoured, one couldn't tell that they had been devoured. Their appearance was as ugly as it was at first. Then I woke up. Then I saw in my dream there were 7 ears of corn coming up on one stalk, plump and good. Then suddenly there were 7 ears of corn, dried up, thin and scorched by the east wind, sprouting up after them. Then the thin ears of corn swallowed up the 7 good ears of corn. So I told the fortune-telling priests, but no one could provide me with an explanation. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dream is one. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows, they are 7 years. Also the 7 ears of corn, they are 7 years. It's one dream. The 7 emaciated and ugly cows coming up after them, they're 7 years. The 7 empty ears of corn scorched by the east wind, there will be 7 years of famine. It is the word that I have already said to Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he has shown to Pharaoh. 7 years of abundance are about to come in the whole land of Egypt. The 7 years of famine will come up after them, and all the abundance in the land of Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will consume the land. So the abundance in the land will be unknown, because the famine that follows for it will be a very oppressive famine. Now, as for repeating Pharaoh's dream twice, it's because the matter has been settled by God, and God will quickly make it happen.
So now let Pharaoh select a man, discerning and wise, and set him in authority over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh act by appointing administrators over the land, and take a 5th portion from the land of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. Then let them gather all the food from these good years that are coming, and let them store grain under Pharaoh's hand as food for the cities, so they may preserve it. Let the food be held in reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine that is coming upon the land of Egypt. Then the land will not be annihilated by the famine. Now the plan seemed good in the eyes of Pharaoh, as well as all his servants. Then Pharaoh said to his servants, Can a man like this be found, one in whom is God's Spirit? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You will be over my house, and all my people will pay homage to you. Only in relation to the throne will I be greater than you. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, I appoint you over the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, clothed him with fine linen garments, and put on a chain of gold around his neck. Then he had him ride in the chariot as second in command, the one that belonged to him, and they called out before him, Kneel down. So he appointed him over the whole land of Egypt. Pharaoh also said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, yet without your permission no one will lift up his hand or his foot in the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh named Joseph Zaphenath-Paneah, and gave him Asenath, daughter of Potipherah, priest of On, as his wife. Then Joseph went out in charge of the land of Egypt. Now Joseph was 30 years old when he began serving as representative for Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Joseph went out from Pharaoh's presence and passed throughout the whole land of Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced in heaps. So he gathered all the food in the land of Egypt during the 7 years and put food in the cities. The food from the city fields surrounding the cities he put in each city. So Joseph stored up grain like the sand of the sea, vast amounts, until he stopped keeping record because it was beyond counting. 2 sons had also been born to Joseph before the year of famine came, born to him by Asenath, daughter of Potipherah, priest of On. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, because God has caused me to forget all my trouble and all my father's house. And the second he named Ephraim, because God has made me fruitful in the land of my oppression. Then the 7 years of abundance in the land of Egypt came to an end. And the 7 years of famine started to come, just as Joseph had said. So there was famine in all the lands, but in the whole land of Egypt there was bread. When the whole land of Egypt suffered famine, the people cried out to Pharaoh for food. And Pharaoh said to all of Egypt, "Go to Joseph, do whatever he tells you." The famine was all over the entire land, so Joseph opened up all that was among them and sold grain to Egypt. Then the famine became severe in the land of Egypt. Yet the whole world came to Egypt to buy grain to Joseph, because the famine was severe in the whole world.
Genesis 42. Now Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt, so Jacob said to his sons, "Why are you looking at each other?" Then he said, "Look, I've heard that there's grain in Egypt. Now go there and buy some grain for us there, so that we will live and not die." So Joseph's brothers went down, 10 of them, to buy grain from Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob, did not send, for he said an accident might happen to him. The sons of Israel went to buy grain among the others who were coming, because the famine was in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was the ruler over the land. He was the provider of grain for all the people of the earth. Then Joseph's brothers came and bowed down to him with faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he made himself unrecognizable to them. Then he spoke harshly and said to them, "Where have you come from?" "From the land of Canaan," they said, "to buy grain as food." Though Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Then Joseph remembered the dreams he had dreamed about them. He said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the undefended places in the land. "No, my lord," they said. "Your servants came to buy grain as food. All of us, we are sons of one man. We are honest. Your servants have never been spies." "Not so," he said to them. "Rather, you've come to see the undefended places in the land." But they said, "We, your servants, are 12 brothers, sons of the one man in the land of Canaan. Look, the youngest is with our father today, and the other one is no more." Joseph said to them, "It's like I told you when I said you are spies. By this you'll be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you'll not leave from here until your youngest brother comes here. Send one of them among yourselves. Go get your brother while you remain confined, in order to test your words, to see whether the truth is in you. If not, by the life of Pharaoh, you're definitely spies." So he put them together in custody for 3 days. Then Joseph said to them on the 3rd day, "Do this, and you will live. I fear God. If you're honest, let one of your brothers remain as a prisoner in the guardhouse where you've been, while you go and bring grain for the hunger in your homes. And your youngest brother bring to me, so that your words can be verified and you won't die." So they did. Then each man said to his brother, We're truly guilty of our brother. We saw the distress of his soul when he begged us for mercy, but we didn't listen. That's why his distress has come to us.
Reuben answered them and said, "Didn't I tell you, don't sin against the boy? But you didn't listen. Now see how his blood is now being accounted for." They did not know that Joseph was listening, since there was an interpreter between them. He turned away from them and wept. When he turned back to them and spoke to them, he took Simeon from them and tied him up before their eyes. Then Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to return each man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. So it was done for them. Then they loaded their grain on their donkeys and left from there. As one of them opened his sack to give fodder to his donkey at the lodge, he saw his money. Behold, it was in the opening of his bag. So he said to his brothers, "My money has been returned. Look, it's in my bag." Their hearts sank. Trembling, each one turned to his brother and said, "What is this that God has done to us?" When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, "The man, the Lord of the land, spoke with us harshly and took us as spies of the land. But we said to him, 'We're honest. We've never been spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is with our father today in the land of Canaan.' Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, 'By this I'll know if you're honest. Leave one of your brothers with me. As for the hunger of your homes, take and go. Then bring your youngest brother to me, so that I may know you are not spies, but you are honest. I'll give you back your brother, and you can move about freely in the land.' Now as they were emptying their sacks, behold, there was each man's bundle of money in his sack. When they saw their money bundles, they and their father, they were afraid. Then their father Jacob said to them, 'You've made me childless. Joseph is no more. Now Simeon is gone. And next you'll take Benjamin. Everything is against me.' Then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, 'You can put my 2 sons to death if I don't bring him back to you. Put him in my hand, and I will return him to you.' But he said, 'My son will not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone remains. And if harm should happen to him along the way you're going, you'll bring my grey hair down to Sheol in grief.'"
Genesis 43. Nice to see you, Dave. A friend from way back. We know what fat and emaciated cows are from another life. Now the famine was severe in the land. When they finished eating the grain they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go back, buy us a little food." But Judah said to him, "The man warned us firmly, saying, 'You won't see my face unless your brother is with you. If you send our brother with us, we will go down and buy grain for you for food. But if you won't send him, we won't go down, because the man said to us, "You won't see my face unless your brother is with you." Then Israel said, "Why did you do evil to me by telling the man that you have another brother?" They said, "The man questioned particularly about us and about our relatives, saying, 'Is your father still alive? Do you have a brother?' So we spoke to him on the basis of these words. How could we possibly know that he would say, 'Bring your brother down'?" Then Judah said to his father Israel, "Please send the boy with me, and we'll get up and go, so that we'll live and not die, we and you and our children. I myself will be his pledge. You can demand him back from my own hand. If I don't bring him back to you and place him before you, then you can blame me all my days. If we had not delayed, we could have returned twice by now." Then their father Israel said to them, "If it must be so, then do this. Take some of the best products of the land in your bags, and bring an offering down to the man, a little balsam and a little honey, gum and myrrh, pistachio and almonds. Also take in your hand a double portion of silver, and bring back in your hand the silver that had been returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake. Take your brother too. Now get up, go back to the man. May El Shaddai grant you mercy before the man, so that he may please your other brother to you. Release, along with Benjamin. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved. Then the men took his offering. They also took the double portion of silver in their hand, as well as Benjamin. So they got up and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the one over his house, "Bring the men into the house, slaughter an animal and prepare it, for the men will eat with me this afternoon." So the man did as Joseph said, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. But the men were afraid, because they had been brought into Joseph's house. They said, "It's because of the silver that was returned to our sacks the first time that we are brought in, to pounce on us and fall on us and take us as slaves, along with our donkeys." So they approached the man who was over Joseph's house and spoke to him at the entrance of the house. "I beg your pardon, my lord," they said. "We indeed came down on the previous occasion to buy grain for food. When we came to the lodge and opened our sacks, behold, there was each man's money at the opening of the sack, the full amount of our money. So we have returned it in our hand. Moreover, we have brought down other money in our hand to buy grain for food. We didn't know who put our money into our sacks." "Be at peace," he replied. "Don't be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. Your money had come to me." Then he brought Simeon out to them, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house, gave them water, and they washed their feet. He also provided fodder for their donkeys. So they prepared the offering for Joseph's coming at noon, for they had heard that they were going to eat there. When Joseph came home, they brought him the offering in their hand into the house, and they bowed down to the ground to him. Then he asked if they were well, and said, "Is he well, your elderly father, that you told me about? Is he still alive?" "Your servant, our father, is well," they said. "He's still alive." Then they knelt and bowed down. Then he lifted his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, "Is this your youngest brother, whom you mentioned to me?" Then he said, "May God be gracious to you, my son." Then Joseph hurried out, because his compassion grew warm and tender towards his brother, so that he wanted to cry. So he went into an inner room and wept there. Then he washed his face, came out, and controlled himself. "Serve the food," he said. So they served him by himself, them by themselves, and the Egyptians who were eating with him by themselves. For Egyptians could not eat with the Hebrews, because it was an abomination to Egyptians. They were seated before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. The men looked at each other in astonishment. Then portions were brought to them from before him, and Benjamin's portion was 5 times larger than any of their portions. Yet they drank and made merry with him.
Joseph tests his brothers. Then he commanded the one over his household, saying, "Fill the men's sacks with as much food as they are able to carry, and put money in the opening of each man's sack. Put my cup, the silver cup, in the opening of the sack of the youngest, along with his grain money." So he did as Joseph told them. When the morning dawned, the men went sent off, and they and their donkeys. They left the city, and they did not get far, when Joseph said to one over in his household, "Get up, go after the men. When you catch up with them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid evil for good? Isn't this the one from which my Lord drinks?'" I said to them, "Why have you repaid evil for good? Isn't this one from which my Lord drinks?" He even used it especially to discern by divination. "What you've done is evil." So he caught up to them and spoke these words to them. They said to him, "Why does my Lord say such things? Far from it from your servant to do such a thing as this. Look, the money we found in the opening of your bags, we brought back to you from the land of Canaan. So how can we steal silver or gold from your Lord's house? Whoever among your servants is found with it, let him die, and we also will become my Lord's slaves." "Even now let it be according to your words," he said. "The one with whom it is found shall be my slave, but the rest of you shall be innocent." Then each man quickly lowered his sack onto the ground, and each man opened his sack. He searched them, beginning with the eldest and finishing with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothing, and each one loaded up his donkey, and they returned to the city. When Judah and his brothers entered Joseph's house, he was still there. They fell to the ground before him. "What's this deed you have done?" Joseph said to them. "Didn't you know that a man like me can discern by divination?" Then Judah said, "What can we say to my Lord? What can we speak? How can we justify ourselves? God has exposed your servant's guilt. We are now my Lord's slaves, both we as well as the one in whose hand the cup was found." But he said, "Far be it from me to do this. The one in whose hand the cup was found, he will be my slave. But you, go up to your father in peace."
As our customers, you can either stand, you can sit, you can relax, you can dance, you can just realise you're in the presence of the Most High. So do whatever you do in His presence. Just relax.
Your mercies are new every morning. Your grace for me every day. Your love never failing, your spirit to guide me when all I feel is pain. God, let your love come surround me. Your will be my peace in the storm. I will trust in the rock, ever Father above. You will never leave me alone.
that are reading this. See?
Hey there everyone, so good to have a full house. Enjoy that. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for behold, I am coming and I will live among you. It is a declaration of Adonai, Moedim, a set time, to come. In that day, many nations will join themselves to Adonai, and they will be my people, and I will dwell among you. Then you will know that Adonai Tzidkot has sent me to you. Adonai will inherit Judah as his portion in the Holy Land and will once again choose Jerusalem. Be silent before Adonai, all flesh, for he has aroused himself from his holy dwelling. Joshua the Kohen Gadol. Then he showed me Joshua the Kohen Gadol standing before the angel of Adonai, and the Satan standing at his right hand to accuse him. Adonai said to the Satan, Adonai rebukes you. The Satan, indeed, Adonai who has chosen Jerusalem rebukes you. Is not this man a brand plucked out of the fire? Now Joshua was wearing filthy garments and standing before the angel, who answered and spoke to those standing before him, saying, Remove the filthy garments from him. Then to Joshua he said, See, I have removed your iniquity from you and will dress you with fine clothing for us too, right now. Then I said, Place a clean turban on his head. So they put a pure turban on his head and clothed him with garments, while the angel of Adonai stood by. The angel of Adonai exhorted Joshua, saying, Thus says Adonai Tzidkot, if you will walk in my ways and keep my charge, then you will judge my house and watch over my courts, and I will give you a place to walk among these standing there. Here. Listen well, Joshua Kohen Gadol, both you and your companions seated before you, because they are men who are a sign. Behold, I will bring forth my servant the branch. For behold, the stone I have laid before Joshua is one stone with 7 facets. On it I will engrave an inscription, declares Adonai Tzidkot, that I will remove the iniquity of this land in one day. In that day, declares Adonai Tzidkot, every man will invite his neighbour to sit under the vine and under the fig tree. The soon coming time of complete restoration, and the harvest is ready. Look up, for your redemption is nigh. It's very exciting.
Then the angel who had been speaking with me returned and woke me, like a man who is wakened from his sleep. He asked me, Behold, I see a solid gold menorah with its bowl at the top of it, and its 7 lamps on it, with 7 pipes for the lamps that are on the top of it. Also 2 olive trees are by it, one on the right side of the bowl, and the other on the left side of it. Then I responded by saying to the angel speaking with me, What are these, my Lord? The angel who spoke with me responded by asking me, You do not know what these are? I replied, No, my Lord. Then he responded to me by saying, This is the word of Adonai to Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might, nor by power, but by my ruach, says Adonai Sabaoth. What are you, great mountain, before Zerubbabel? With you will become a plain. He will bring out the capstone with shouts of grace to it. Again, no, that's it, isn't it?
Fantastic. Yes, isn't it wonderful to hear grace, grace. Grace, we've received His grace. The grace of Yeshua HaMashiach on each one of us. We stand before Him because of His grace. Isn't that wonderful? It is. And as I always tack on the end, if there's no evidence of that grace coming out from us, the question we must ask is, have we received His grace? Have we received His grace? Because if we've received His grace, we automatically want His love and everything else to flow out of us. And it needs to. The fruit of the Spirit. Okay? Exciting. So we have another exciting time. It's because it's always wonderful to honour, and it says important, that we do honour Jerusalem and bring praise and prayer for Israel. So my Father, it's a privilege for us to have my Father with us. So if you'd like to come up, Mr. Van Emmeringen, Yaakov. Well, he's even got his own prayer shawl, so you won't need this one, will he? That's fantastic. It is wonderful as believers together to be able to just get together, and that's from Haderach way and Bethel, just for us to just enjoy each other's company. It's fantastic. So welcome again if you haven't heard me say that before. It's just so nice. And of course, my father he's not from the opposition. Are you? No, he's not. He blesses Haderach. And it's great. Hey. Yeah, hey. I can do that to my dad because it's my dad. Fantastic. So, Dad is going to just bring the blessing on Jerusalem right now and all the things that are happening in Israel. So let's join together with it.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for the fellowship we have together. Lord, we thank you for your grace, your goodness and care, for your loving kindness, that you bring us your goodness and grace. We thank you for the fellowship here together. We ask you to bless us, to guide us. Lord, you are so good. Lord, we receive so many blessings from you. And therefore I stand here after so many years, Lord, of your good and grace, of your assistance, Lord, that we can be a blessing to others. And that we enjoy together the fellowship, the feast of Haderach, Lord, that we can enjoy it together, because, Lord, you are the light, and we have to be your light too. Lord, we ask you to bless us this day, and Lord, that we can enjoy to know that Jerusalem is the fellowship, is the country you have appointed to be your country too, and that it will be one, that it will be never be taken away, because you, Lord, are the head of it, Lord, and that the Jewish people may understand that you have appointed them to reign over it, and that from that place, as it said in your word, the blessings will go out to all over the world.
Yeah, amen.
That your missionaries will go out and tell the good news that the Lord Yeshua is reigning, that he will be reign over Israel, especially over Jerusalem, the eternal city, as it says. Lord, we thank you for it, and that we soon have the blindness, the veil will go off those who have not understood that Yeshua is the Messiah and is the King of Kings and will reign over Jerusalem forevermore. We thank you, Lord, for your grace, your goodness and care.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, no, it's always wonderful to honour. We should honour each other.
Yes.
It's a more important thing that we do. Honour your fellow believers. Bless them, encourage them, inspire them. Everyone else will put us something in the back. So our responsibility is to be the support and the shield for everyone else. Okay? That's our responsibility. So encourage one another. Beautiful. Well, as customary, we'll just have a bit of a break. And if anyone would like prayer, we have oil. And each of you is a disciple. Your responsibility is to lay hands. It's your responsibility to bring the miracles. It's your responsibility to bring wholeness to each other. So I leave that with you to do that for one another. Pray for one another. Encourage one another. And just before we do, and we'll announce it at the end. It's wonderful. Again, it's big Hanukkah. It's a wonderful time of celebration. And it's an interesting one for most of us. The next celebration, that scriptural celebration, will be the 1st of Nisan, which is God's ordained commencing of the year, the true Rosh Hashanah. And for me, in my studies, I believe quite clearly that's when Yeshua actually was born as well. And so it's an interesting point. We do celebrate. We celebrate the birth of Yeshua. Exciting, because he came. He came then to die. He was born to die. And we won't go into the whole subject of it. You can study it yourself and have a look at those different things through there. But it's very exciting. It's a new beginning for Israel. And it's also a new beginning for all believers. The 1st of Nisan. So study it for yourself. Have a look. And when we come around to it, we will be celebrating the birth of Yeshua HaMashiach. And until then, let's party on. Okay, so have a good time together right now. And encourage one another. If you don't know anyone here, or I'm sure you don't know everyone, just say hi and encourage each other. And we have oil for prayer if you need it. And then we'll come back and commence reading the Brother Haderach. Well, that's wonderful. And we'll continue that frivolity and having fun together. Well, there'll be a couple afterwards, but also tonight. Great time to let your hair hang down and have a ball. Okay, so that's what we'll do tonight as well. How exciting. By the way, yeah, if you're not aware, there is a wonderful Hanukkah party tonight. You're all welcome. Starts 6:30 through to 9:30. You're not too late, I suppose, but just...
I'm talking too much.
Celebrations are always wonderful. So let's continue to celebrate as we read the Brit Haderach. It's the new covenant.
And this reading is John, 1 John. The Word became flesh. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were made through him, and apart from him nothing was made that has come into being. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overpowered it. Then came a man sent from God, whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify about the light, so that through him everyone might believe. He was not the light, but he came to bear witness concerning the light. The true light, coming into the world, gives light to every man. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, but the world did not know him. He came to his own, but his own did not receive him. But whoever did receive him, those trusting in his name, to these he gave the right to become children of God. They were born not of a bloodline, nor of human desire, nor of man's will, but of God. And the Word became flesh and tabernacled among us. We looked upon his glory, the glory of the one and only, from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testifies about him. He cried out, saying, "This is he of whom I said, the one who comes after me is above me, because he existed before me." Out of his fullness we have all received grace on top of grace. Torah was given through Moshe. Grace and truth came through Yeshua the Messiah. No one has ever seen God, but the one and only God in the Father's embrace has made him known.
Yeah.
Just recognize the 8 children we have today for this celebration of 8 days. Woohoo! So John chapter 10, verse 22. Then came Hanukkah. It was winter in Jerusalem. Yeshua was walking in the temple around Solomon's colonnade. Then the Judean leaders surrounded him, saying, "How long will you hold us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us outright." Yeshua answered them, "I told you, but you don't believe. The works I do in my Father's name testify concerning me, but you don't believe, because you are not my sheep. My sheep," did I go past? "My sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life. They will not perish, and no one will snatch them out of my hand. My Father, who has given them to me, is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of the Father's hand. I and the Father are one." So we go to Acts chapter 7, verse 9 through 16. The patriarchs became jealous of Joseph and sold him into Egypt. Yet God was with him. He rescued him out of all his troubles and granted him favor and wisdom before Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who made him governor over Egypt and all his household. Famine and great suffering came over all Egypt and Canaan, and all our fathers could find no food. But when Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt, he sent our fathers there the first time. On the second visit, Joseph made himself known to his brothers, and his family became known to Pharaoh. So Joseph sent and called for Yaakov and his relatives, 75 persons. Jacob went down to Egypt and died, he and our fathers. They were carried to Shechem and laid in the tomb that Abraham had bought for a sum of money from the sons of Hamor and Shechem.
Beautiful reading. It's now Sharon, my privilege to welcome Geoff and Pam. Wonderful, wonderful. So we have the privilege of hearing the word of God from another man of God who's going to present the word to us. Hallelujah.
It's lovely to be with you all. It's a great privilege. Bless you all in Yeshua's name. I really enjoy it.
So nice.
We're going to be wide for sound. It's in there somewhere. That's a good. Keep it cool. Going to put this on, otherwise the people outside of Tauranga will get very upset. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Isn't it good that we're here because other people prayed? I was telling somebody last week, the only reason we exist is because Yaakov and another lady prayed for about 13 years. And when he came through the door of our first meeting, he said, I've been praying for this for 13 years, but didn't believe it would ever happen. So that's faith for you. But you wouldn't be here unless somebody prayed. We're here because somebody's prayed. They've dug up the hard rocks. They've ploughed the hard ground. We're just the fruit. So if you ever feel like you're becoming a bit too important, just remember we're just labourers. Everybody here today, we've got one position. We're labourers thrust into the harvest field. So basically I've titled this Dream Time. The reason I have to type it all out is because I send it off to everybody before Shabbat that's outside of Tauranga, and then the people that are inside Tauranga, I send them a copy on in this case, this afternoon, but normally on a Monday. So it took me a long time to get used to having to write it down, because I much prefer normally to sort of move around and do things freely. One of the things the Lord was talking to me about in the early hours of this morning when I was just resting was that he reminded me that we're a temple.
Yeah.
He says we're a temple.
We are.
Guess where the menorah goes?
Yeah.
In the temple. How many bodies are there? Only one body. No denominations, just one body. One head. So he reminded me that Hanukkah's a bit like the temple. We are the temple. The light's meant to be in it, and the whole feature about the Hanukkah lights is they're not here to light our lives. And that's what he was reminding me this morning. So often, I've got the light, I'm saved, I'm redeemed, I've got the light. He doesn't give it to us for us. He gives it so it shines out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hanukkah lights are not designed to give us light. They're designed to shine outwards and give light out there. So, I've stolen a bit of the Australian thunder. I think I've got the wrong one. I'll better, no, it'll be in here. I was about to bring you last week's message. As somebody keeps reminding me, I don't like stale crumbs. That's better. Just testing. So, let there be air. He'er means light. I'm probably not pronouncing it properly, but that's what it is. How many of you are concerned about the increased darkness surrounding you? Every day we keep hearing more and more darkness, we keep seeing more and more darkness. But it's good news. Darkness is simply an absence of light. If you're concerned about the darkness, guess what you have to do? Shine your light outwards. If it's dark, it's because not enough people are shining their lights. Darkness is simply an absence of light. That means we can use exactly the same solution as Yahweh when he said, "Let there be light." There was darkness then. So what did he do? He didn't shout at it, he didn't scream at it, he didn't curse it. He just said, "Let there be light." Boom, there was light. No more darkness. As I've always said, if you're concerned about the darkness, just turn the light on. Because his Ma'or, he is Ma'or. He's the source of light, causing the darkness to have no other choice but to be neutralized. You want to nuke the darkness? Turn the light on. In your life, in the lives of others. The whole point about the candles is that the one servant light lights all the other lights. If you want more light, you're the servant, take your light and use it to light other lights. It's a solution that's still valid today. Of all the methods that people use today, including shouting and cursing the darkness, which I've heard quite a bit over the years, only one effective method remains around us: turn the light on. But not just a small, weak little torch that we bring out once a week and forget to check the batteries. But we need to bring out a floodlight. And the floodlight will only work if it's plugged into the power. Because you put a floodlight into the darkness and it causes its extinction. So how do we shine the light? By being a light. You know, the psychiatrists, be the light. Be the ball. Because by being a light, we spread the light and cause others to catch the light. And it's the light that separates truth from deception all around us. Talking about the Ruach HaKodesh this morning, his main function is to lead us into all truth. So if you're worried about being deceived, then you need to have a good relationship with the Ruach HaKodesh. Because he promises that he'll never let you be deceived. He'll lead you into all truth. He is the light. He shines a light in the darkness. He separates the truth from deception and illuminates a pathway out of the pits of despair and darkness. How can people get out of the despair and darkness? Only if somebody shines a light and shows them the way. Otherwise, it's like being in a room with no lights on. You can do as much as you like, but all you ever do is keep bouncing off the other walls. You know, when you look for a door in the dark, bang, bang, bang. There must be a door here somewhere. Well, when you're in that situation, there's no door. We need to show them that there is a clear and effective way of escape. The miracle we celebrate this week is Hanukkah. And we say, oh, what's Hanukkah got to do with us? It's not just a celebration of light, it's a celebration of rededication. It was all about the Greeks had sacrificed pigs on the altar in the temple. They'd defiled it, they'd made it unclean. And to make it clean again, it had to be rededicated, it had to be cleaned up, it had to be rededicated, and even the oil that they put in the lamps had to be reconsecrated, it had to be redone from scratch, because the other one was no good anymore. if you look in Torah, there's a specific recipe for that light. And the interesting thing is that when the priests wore, the Kohen wore their specific clothes, their linen clothes, when they wore out, what did they do with them? They ripped them all up. They were the wicks. So you not only had consecrated oil, but you had consecrated wicks as well. They didn't waste anything. They were Jewish. It's a festival of light, but it's also a reflection followed by action. It's no good thinking about it. It has to be followed by an action. Every time something's written in Torah, it's meant to provoke an action. If you don't do anything with it, then it's just words. It's just knowledge. You can have your head stuffed full of knowledge. So what? What do you do with it? That's what counts. You've got to put it into practice. It's one of the things he had the big problem with the Pharisees, is they knew it all and they spouted it all, but they didn't do any of it. Just as the Maccabees were a Levitical family. They weren't just a bunch of hotheads that you hear about. It was a Levitical family, and that's why they were outraged about the way the temple had been treated. And one of them, Judas Maccabeus, also known as the Hammer, decided to do something about it. A bit of a hothead. They refused to take part in any of this Syrian-imposed desecration of Yahweh's temple. And one of the things they'd done was banning Brit Milah, or circumcision, and they'd sacrificed pigs on the altar dedicated to Zeus about 165 years before Yeshua arrived in Jerusalem. So just like them, we need to stand up and be counted. We need to oppose those who've desecrated and paganized Yahweh's house of prayer. He said, my house is a house of prayer for all nations. And if it's been desecrated, we need to do something about it. Yes, it's very comfortable to let the Syrians do it all. We need to oppose those who've desecrated and paganized Yahweh's house of prayer, to expose the idols and the deceptions. And then we need to retake it, rededicate it by cleansing it, and rekindling the pure flame of truth. A living menorah, a living tree of life, made up of 3 Jewish and 3 Gentile branches, united in the 7th, the Shamash, the servant candle. And they'll often do that. You'll see, normally on a normal menorah, there are 3 lights that side, 3 lights that side, and 1 in the middle. The one in the middle is the Shamash, the servant candle. You've got 3 Gentile, 3 Jewish. And at the moment, you've got 2 sides of the menorah screaming at each other. We have no need of you. I've got bad news for them. Those 3 need each other so badly, because until they do, there will be no body. And that body will be united by the servant, Yeshua. One of the things I rejoice in today is the body's meeting. I don't care what name we put on our things and what name we put over our doors. This is the body. The body is at worship together. The body is uniting together today, and that's what counts. One head, one body. The Shamash servant candle is the one that lights all the other 6. He's lit 3 of them and they got snuffed out. He's lit another 3, he's lit another 3, and they're still there sometimes and smoking other times. What I want to see is all 6 fully lit, fully united, fully joined together. And he's promised that he'll do that. He lights all 6, which cleanses us and shows us the way. It also symbolizes the 6 days of creation. Well, the seventh is a separate gift to all mankind. People say, oh, what's Shabbat got to do with me? It was created long before Israel. It was created long before there was any changes. It was created when Adam and Eve celebrated Shabbat. It was created for all mankind. No separations. It's the Shabbat candle, the candle of completion, the candle of rest. Who's the light of the world? Yeshua. He's the light of the world. He described himself specifically as the light of the world. Why? Because he was at creation. And just like the menorah, his light shines forwards. He doesn't have this little candle that he goes up to bed with every night to light his way. He shines it outwards into the darkness. That's why the Pharisees didn't like him. Threatened their authority. Religious people don't like it when somebody comes and shines the light. It threatens their position. As I say to all of our people, we don't have any positions, we just have responsibilities. So if you want a responsibility, come and talk to me. It shines outward as a guide for others, not inward as a lamp for our benefit. Redemption or salvation is not the little document that you can sort of stick in your safe and think, right, that's it, I've got my insurance policy, end of story. It's just a beginning. It's just an indication of the fact that we need to have a daily relationship with him. We need to do things with him and not for him. So many people are desperate to do something for him. He doesn't want you to. He wants you to do things with him. There's a big difference. He wants that relationship. He wants us to be in a relationship, not just stuff our heads full of knowledge. So many people want to have more knowledge than anybody else. My answer is fine. What are you doing with it? Where have you put it into action? Show me the fruit. And I challenge myself with that as well. I'm not condemning people, I'm challenging me too. He's the burning bush that burns continuously but never gets consumed. If we let him anywhere near us, there'll be a lot of stuff that gets consumed. That burning bush calls us to take on a sacred task as he speaks to our heart and asks us to join him in bringing deliverance and redemption to a lost slave-like generation. I know, I've been a slave, I've been in Egypt, didn't like it. I'm so glad I don't have to make the decisions. I'm so glad I can come to him and ask for advice. He's a father. I ask him for advice and he gives it. And the lost slave-like generation, he wants us to lead them out of the wilderness. That's the whole reason we're here. It's to be labourers, to guide people through the wilderness that they see in front of them, to guide them through the darkness. As along with King David, we proclaim, your word, your Torah, is a lamp for my foot and a light on my path, shining forwards. And with Yeshayahu, Isaiah, a curse on those who call evil good and good evil, those who change darkness into light and light into darkness. And that's what we face today. What we hear all around us, what we hear on TV, what we hear in politics, they've switched everything around. The bad stuff's now the good stuff, and the good stuff's now the bad stuff. They're talking about getting rid of a whole generation of people. Why? Because they're a burden on society. So it would be just kinder if they just, volunteered to be euthanized. Doesn't it sound nice? Euthanasia. The only euthanasia I'm interested in, the guys in Vietnam. So we're living in a generation who's changed bitter into sweet and sweet into bitter. And he says, accursed on those seeing themselves as wise and esteeming themselves as clever. Doesn't it sound a lot like the world around us today? Yeshua himself wasn't in the temple at Hanukkah. He was the temple at Hanukkah. Wherever he was, the temple was there. Wherever he was, it's always Hanukkah, because he's always producing miracles. He's always producing light. And the one thing he tells us is, you have to buy the oil daily. That was the whole point. That's why they had to wait 8 days. Because you have to prepare the oil daily for the next day. But while you're doing that, then you're preparing that one for that one. And you've just got this continual thing going. And when you stop, you've suddenly got an 8-day cycle to get the first lot of oil out. I'm sure Yeshua felt the same way about us when we got redeemed. It's like, oh no, it's going to take me at least 8 days to get some oil into them. Light them up, trim their wick.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were no blessing to him. The thing I love about Yeshua is he came to me when I was at my worst. He didn't turn around and say, oh, he looks promising. Oh, he looks okay. Oh, he's doing nice things. Let's have him.
Yeah, that's it.
Look how long it took him to deal with Moshe and Yosef. Right at the last minute, he comes in there, and it seems like somebody's going in one direction, and he'll suddenly just turn and say, right, mine. He took Moshe and said, mine, just after he'd been trained up as a prince of Egypt. Mine. Then he had to take him and train him for a few years to lead sheep. So he himself was in the temple at Hanukkah, as described in Yochanan 10. He was the visible miracle, as he cleansed and rededicated that temple just by his presence. And he demonstrated the prophetic act of separating the sheep from the goats. Nobody wants to be goats. Believe me, they're the ones that get thrown over the hill. Take the sins away. You want to be sheep. Having spent some time on a property with goats, I can understand what he was saying. They're not the most disciplined of animals. What was their question to him? Are you the Messiah? What were they expecting? They were expecting this king with robes, and he's going to get rid of all the Romans, clear everything out, and give them everything they wanted. And so many people, when they get redeemed or saved, feel the same way. It's like health and wealth and wisdom, we're going to get it all. It's not what he promises in my Torah. What he says is, you're going to be persecuted just like me. You're going to be taken in front of the Sanhedrin just like me. You're going to be crucified just like me. Take up your stake daily and follow me. Not a very popular message. But it's what it takes sometimes. Do we go looking for persecution? Oh no. Are we going to get it? Yes. Particularly when we tell people the truth. It's not popular sometimes. Particularly in this generation of switching things around. To the 7 Messianic Kehilat, they weren't churches, there were 7 Jewish communities in what is now Turkey. How do I know they're Jewish communities? Because he talks about removing their menorah from them if they continued to tolerate the teachings of the Nicolaitans. Both Ephesus and Pergamon are warned. So who are the Nicolaitans? They are the wolves in sheep's clothing that he warns us about. Because they tried to blend paganism with Messianic Judaism. They try and have a little bit of both and mix it all together. They encourage them to eat food sacrificed to idols. Do you know that most of the lamb and pork and other meats that are exported from New Zealand all have to be halal? They've all been prayed over. They've all been cursed, if you like. Food dedicated to idols. Why? Because they know they can't sell them into all the countries they want to sell them into unless they have that halal symbol on it. Food manufacturers in Australia, Cadbury's in particular, have the halal symbol on their chocolate. Why? Because they want to sell it into all the places that won't take it otherwise. Every day, without realizing it, we are eating stuff that's been sacrificed to idols. The fact that we don't know it is fine, but once we do, we're responsible. Yeah. The Nicolaitans encouraged people to engage in sexual immorality with the temple prostitutes and others. They didn't stand on street corners then, they stood on the steps of the temple. They were absolutely and totally religious. Hard, harsh, judging, condemning. They knew everything. Nobody else knew anything. If anybody wanted to know anything, they had to come to them for the answer. It's called control. They were absolute. So many people turn into me and say, oh, you must be religious. And I say, no, why? I hate religion. Absolutely hate it. I'm the least religious person you'll ever meet, hopefully. Religion isn't the answer. Relationship is the answer. Religion, the religious spirit, is a controlling, self-centered thing. And it's institutions that are based on wealth, rank, and a priestly caste system. You don't have to worry about it. You're just laity. Well, you know, I don't mind going into these buildings because I'm just a layperson. It's a priestly caste system. It's a hierarchical system. It's not the God system. His system is all are equal, but some are further ahead than others. We follow some follow us. We're all equal. There's only one person who's up there, and that's him. There's no ladder. We're not trying to drag people down while they kick us in the head to stop us getting up there. That's the world system. That's the political system. Turn your back for a second and you're gone. It's similar to today's institutions. It was the professionals versus the laity. And the professionals usually were hand in hand with royalty. Why? Because they had this system to control things where one went into the army, one went into the priesthood, one went, they made sure they had all their bases covered. And it's still the same now. All appointments at the bishop level and above in the Church of England are made by the royal family. Not by the Church of England, not by Parliament, but by the royal family. I'm sure they take advice, but you'll find a lot of countries now where the religious system in that country is also the state system. This is the state religion. It's all tied up with the politics and the caste system in that country. It's not his body. So they were hand in hand with royalty, civil governments, and titled aristocracy. And their followers were considered expendable and exploitable pawns who were manipulated by them in an egocentric winner-takes-all chess game, which is exactly the same game we see played out all around us worldwide on a daily basis today. The pawns don't matter. There's plenty more where they came from. My question today is, have you prepared enough oil today? Is there enough oil? to take you through the day? Are you preparing oil today to take you through tomorrow? Have you been to the oil cellar? You said if you don't have oil, you go to the oil cellar. You have to go on a daily basis. He doesn't give you a 10-gallon drum to last you the week. You have to go on a daily basis. You only have the capacity to hold enough for a day. And he does it that way on purpose, so you have to come to him every day for oil. Is it pure, as demanded by Abba? Is our wick trimmed? Or is it an old towel? It should be consecrated clothes that are used as the wicks. Are we shining our light outwards continuously, or are we sitting huddled around it at home? Have we allowed him to trim our wicks? Otherwise it's just all smoke and mirrors. Have we allowed him to cleanse and rededicate our lives? This is what this holiday is all about. Not about some fancy lights, not about the dreidels, not about the latkes and all the other stuff. As nice as they are, it's about rededication. Have we allowed him to cleanse and rededicate our lives, eliminating every scrap of assimilation, every scrap of fitting in with society? Heaven forbid that we rock the boat and do something different from those around us. People might look at us and think we're different. Wouldn't that be terrible? We've had it all from our family. It's like, but of course you've got to keep Christmas, of course you've got to have a tree. It's for the children. You know, the emotional blackmail. The only time they tried it by putting a tree up while we were out a few years ago, we came back and there was a tree and it was all covered in stuff. The next morning there was just a load of brown stuff on the floor and this empty looking stick thing. So it lasted a day after I'd expressed my displeasure and said to throw it outside, so that was the end of that. They've never tried since. Have we exposed and rejected traditional pagan practices? Do you even know what the pagan practices are? You can't get rid of them if you don't know what they are. If you think they're just normal tradition, you won't do anything about it. Am I coming over the top? Sure. You sure came over the top. That's why the Pharisees, the religious people, didn't like him. So we rejected the pagan practices, including idolatry, the festivals dedicated to pagan deities, biblically unclean foods, including any foods like halal slaughtered lamb, which is dedicated to idols. Have we rekindled the light of our first love? And when I say biblical kosher, I'm talking about what's in here, not what the rabbis have done, not this multi-million-dollar business that they've formed, where if their tick's not on it, you don't eat it. I'm talking about where he says in there the difference between clean and unclean. He says these are clean animals, these are unclean animals. That's all I need to know. Have we rekindled the light of our first love? So often we sing that. Please rekindle the light of our first love. Have we? Or are we still running on batteries?
Yeah, it's good each day.
The pure, non-flickering, untainted, uncompromising daily relationship with Abba. That's why we call him a father, because he's a father. He's not some terrifying God that's going to beat you with a piece of 4x2 if you put a foot wrong. He cares far more about our future than our past, as long as we let him deal with it and cleanse it and rededicate. As everybody knows, it's not easy at times. It's all right saying something like that, but it's not easy. Is it easy doing that every single day in today's busy world? No. Is it easy being all the things he asks us to be? No. He didn't ask us to do them because they're easy. It wasn't easy for him. He's not asking us to do anything that he hasn't already done. He didn't say, listen to me. He said, follow me. He's not asking you to listen to what he's asking you. He's saying, follow me by what you see me do, what you've heard me say. And the unconditional trust, forgiveness and love raises our spiritual temperature. Rigid, harsh, hard rule-keeping and judgmental attitudes are the things that lower the temperature in our lives, and particularly those around us, eventually leading to sub-zero. So many people I've seen that have been under the hard, harsh religious yoke. Young people, the first chance they get, they bolt. They've gone cold. They've been immunized just enough. That's what religion does. That's what control does. It strangles the life out of things. The exact opposite of what he asks us to do. He wants us to be a beacon on the hill. He wants us to be a lighthouse. How many ships, how many people do you think would have been killed around the world if people hadn't built lighthouses? There was enough that had been wrecked and enough lives lost, even with lighthouses. You imagine what it would have been like without the lighthouses? We're supposed to be lighthouses. And our job is to warn those around us of the dangers running aground on the rocks of compromise. Oh, it's just a little compromise. It's just a little yeast. It won't leaven the whole lump. Yes, it does. You try putting a good apple in a sack full of rotten apples and see how quickly it turns them all into nice new apples. No? The other way around? Put one rotten one in a bag full of good ones, boom, they're all gone. He wants us to be a menorah that reflects the light of truth that reaches out to both Jew and Gentile. We talk about Jew and Gentile. He sees no difference. They're all his children. It's like saying, well, is it this family or that family? Well, they're both families. They're both related to me. They're both my families. And he says, as we follow our Shamash, our servant king, who is the way, the truth, and the life, like him, let us share and spread the light to other candles as we come in contact with family and friends over this Hanukkah holiday season. Expect a miracle. I've told this story many times before about the guy that said, next weekend, when you come to the meeting, it's definitely going to rain. They all said, oh yeah, you're a pastor, what do you know? You're not a weather forecaster. And he said, I've got it on good authority, it's definitely going to rain. And then the next week came, and he stood up and he said, one person brought an umbrella. Just one brought an umbrella. And it's a bit like that. Expect a miracle. If you're not expecting a miracle, you're probably going to miss it. Every day is a miracle. Everything he does for us is a miracle. There are miracles all around us today that have happened that we don't even know about. We haven't even noticed. The fact that we're stood here is a miracle. So expect a miracle, and more importantly, thank him in advance for it. You don't wait till the miracle happens and then thank him. You thank him in advance for the miracle. You expect it. That's what shows him you're expecting it. I don't just pray for something, I thank him for it. Before I even see it, before I even get it. So if you're expecting miracles and then thanking him for it in advance, you watch the darkness recede in response. You turn the light on. You ask him to turn the light on. You ask him for a floodlight. And you watch the darkness start to recede. So shalom, Chavarim, friends. Shalom. And those bad guys, don't forget there's a party here tonight. Got to get our priorities ordered. Hanukkah party.
Yes, thanks, Geoff. That was very inspiring. It was great. Great. Let's be a light. Let's be that light. Let's make sure that menorah is shining. Woo! Fantastic. Well, just before we do the blessings, we'll complete with the blessings. Shimshon's going to come, and I'll do one as well. Sharon is just going to come. It's always a good bit of a custom to entertain you.
I'm not sure what he's expecting. Sing, but I don't dance. Oh, he's expecting a miracle. Well, that's good. Yes, as we've been reminded, tonight is the party at 6:30, and I'm just hoping that some of our Bethel family can just stay for a bit afterwards just to help us get it set up. We thought we'd do that today rather than try and do that tonight. You can bring your family and friends, and the food you're bringing on a plate is for supper. So have dinner before you come. Lots of energy food so you can dance all night. And these items, it's going to be fun. We've never done this before, and so we would love it that you would come and help us enjoy it. And this is our last meeting for 2017, and we've had a wonderful year since February, and we'll miss you. So we will still be, we'd still like to get together at some stage. And so if you come up with a bright idea, oh, I'd like to do something, let us know if you want to invite us, and we'll all come and help you have fun. Because it would be nice to stay connected over this time. And we will recommence on the Shabbat of the 13th of January. So that will be fun, won't it? Get together. And the other news is that Dorothy is... Haderach is doing the same. So you're recommencing on the 13th as well. Great, so we're having the holidays at the same time. And the other thing is that Dorothy has had a miracle, really, and has been provided with enough money to buy a ticket to Israel. So she goes in January. Yeah. So isn't that awesome? And so we will be praying for her on the Shabbat before she goes. And we would really encourage you, just ask the Lord what it is that you could do for Dorothy to bless her on her trip. You might dedicate yourself to pray for her. You might feel to do something financially for her. So she didn't ask us to say this. We're saying this because she's part of our family, and it's nice to bless others, isn't it? So that doesn't mean you all have to do the same thing, but just put some time aside just to pray for Dorothy and ask what it is that we could do, or you could do, to bless her. It's been a very exciting year, and it's been fantastic today to see our family from over the bridge come, and may this be the first of many that we can get together and celebrate together. It was excellent. So we're going to have the blessing now, and it is our custom, as I guess it is yours, that we stand for the blessing. And if you're by yourself and you'd like to have the blessing with someone, just go and stand by someone, or if you want to stand by yourself, you can. If you're here with your family, it's nice for the family to get together. So Shimshon, if you would come, please.
So Shimshon will bring the Aaronic blessing, and I'm just going to bring the blessing from the Brit Haderach. Now may God of Shalom, who brought us up from the dead, the great shepherd of the sheep, by the blood of the everlasting covenant, our Lord Yeshua, make you complete in every good thing to do his will, accomplishing in us what is pleasing in his sight through Messiah Yeshua. To him be the glory forever and ever. Amen.
יברך אדוני וישמרך, יראה אדוני פניו עליך ויחונך, יישא אדוני פניו עליך וישים לך shalom. May Adonai bless you and keep you. May Adonai make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May Adonai turn his face towards you and grant you shalom. Asher lechem shavua tov v'shavua mevorach. And to you be a blessed week, a good week and a blessed week. Amen.
Amen.